Hello and welcome to the Global Press Conference for Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. On the count of 3, how are you guys feeling?
Good.
Great. Yeah, great, cool, yeah, wonderful. We got producers Tim Lewis and David Heyman and director David Yates. We have got William Nadiam, Victoria Yates, Alison Sudol, Jessica Williams, Dan Fogler, Mads Mikkelsen, Eddie Redmayne and Jude Law.
What about this one here? What about her?
So it's not a process of change; it's more a process of regression, I suppose. And one of the joys that David really allowed me to investigate was, rather than feeling the weight of the brilliant performances by Michael Gambon and Richard Harris, was to really go back and understand that he's not the fully formed Dumbledore of the Harry Potter books and films. He's a man still finding his way, still confronting and resolving his demons. And that's what I mean by regression, I suppose, that in this film in particular, he's facing the past, he's facing himself and his own guilt. But if there were a quality that links him, I would say it's his mischievousness, his humor, and his belief in people, his belief, he sees the positive. You think how Dumbledore believed in Draco, he believed even in Tom Riddle. He sees the good, or the potential good. And I think that's something that he's always had. But the magic's really fun too. I remember Eddie telling me that on the second film, the first film for me, where he talked about, if there's a situation or a problem with a scene, or, you remember you've got magic at your disposal. And the scene in Berlin, when I had to basically pass on information to the team, went from being a scene where I was basically passing over maps to a scene with a magic hat and all sorts of things flying out. And that was the excuse of, well, yeah, it's magic, so I can do that.
I love the new Dumbledore relationship. It's, for me, what I love is that it's got that complexity of sort of master and apprentice, but it's evolved throughout the movies to being something almost fraternal, I would say, in this one, a sort of older brother, younger brother. And there's a moment in this film where Newt even takes it upon himself, sees the vulnerability in Dumbledore and tries to pass on a moment of wisdom to him. So that progression. But what I love about Newt is fundamentally he's an introverted guy and is most comfortable with his creatures and in his own world. But Dumbledore has seen a quality in him that has the potential for leadership, albeit in an unconventional way. And this film, what I love about this movie, it's like a wizarding heist movie in which this group of outsiders all band together with all of us are unconventional, all of us, and the leader is unconventional, and there's a kind of wonder in that. As far as working with Jude's concerned, I adore this man. He was a friend before we started working together, and one of the real joys about working on a series of films is you get to push things. You get to feel so comfortable working with each other that you can kind of push boundaries, I suppose. And also there's a kind of shorthand. So that was kind of joyful in this.
Yeah, I was thrown into it a little later than the rest of the gang. I mean, they've done 2 films, and then they were halfway through when I joined the party. Yeah, it's like it's a family you visit, and you just can only hope that they will adopt you, and they did. Everybody is just the whole gang is fantastic. The crew is fantastic. David is fantastic, and if they're the family, he's the godfather, and he's done this so many times, so he makes everybody feel at home, right? So my journey was fast and swift, but I felt at home right away. Yeah, I mean, it's not something I find myself. It's in the story, and then it's in David's head, and then it was also through. For this character, he's very, very linked to Dumbledore, and for me and Jude, we had quite a few conversations about what that relationship looked like. So my character is shaped out of that world. But I mean, you don't start out saying, nobody actually in history started out saying, I'm going to be the bad guy, right? So we have to figure out what his mission is. What's his goal? Why is he trying to make the world a better place in that matter, So I think that they started out having a common and a mutual goal as young adults or big children. And then it got blurry. The ways of getting to that goal were different than they imagined.
I mean, a lot of it was just sharing our perspective or our imagined take on how they met and what that meant to them. And to me, it was always really important to think of who Albus was before he met Gellert. And I always imagined that being Dumbledore was actually quite a lonely place, being that he was brilliant and outstanding at a very young age, to the point where he probably felt slightly isolated, or someone who was maybe diminishing his own sense of power and self and scope and ambition. And then suddenly he meets someone who is as brilliant and matches him and inspires him, and that kind of connection is very, very, very powerful. More so when you're at a very, a young age. And I think it's important then to also remember what their time together would have been like. Incredibly dynamic, incredibly cherished and special. And then this awful kind of moment where you realize you're on a different path. You're actually moving away from each other, but that doesn't necessarily take away from the explosive kernel, the firework that went off initially. In fact, it makes it harder. But you know, I said this earlier. It felt very fortuitous being able to play this character at the age I'm at now, because it was wonderful being able to reflect at my age, 25 years back, and sort of think, who am the person I've become? Are there mistakes I've made? And being able to still sit easy with that, but nonetheless still feel how alive it is in you. And really, to prepare, we just talked an awful lot about all of those areas. And of course, at some point, his opinion differed from mine because our characters...
Yours is differing from mine.
That's how I remember.
Right. But I think also Eddie said it right, that yes, we have to remember there's magic here. If you add the magic, then a lot of things happens to us as characters as well. But also it goes the other way. We wanted this to be real. We wanted the magic we take for granted. It's been with us since we were born.
This film, it's about family, the family you make, as opposed to necessarily the family you're born into. It's about the courage of doing the right thing. It's about love. It's about sacrifice. Ultimately, it's for Dumbledore, it's about choosing between the love he had and maybe still has, and doing the right thing for the greater good.
And I think what's enduring about these movies, I think they become a safe place to go to for lots of people. They celebrate certain values: loyalty, love, friendship, empowering the outsider, the person you always underestimate, things that resonate for a lot of people out in the real world. And they do it in this magical space.